Hello and welcome to the Untranslatable podcast. Today we are recording episode number 77. We're very happy to be here today. And today we will be talking about a little travel recap. If you haven't checked out some of our social media accounts, Jared and I were reunited for a wonderful, I believe it was 6 days, and we had the opportunity to travel in Berlin and Prague. I got to show off my hometown here, Chomutov. It was absolutely fantastic being a tour guide for Jared and also for our buddy Don. We'll be talking about what we were up to. I also want to kind of give my 2 cents, or what was that other untranslatable? It was like put your 5 cents in or something like that about what it was like on my end being the tour guide. I think Jared obviously knows I had a great time, but we'll talk more about that later this episode. So we're looking forward to bringing this to you, and without further ado, my good friend and my buddy who is abroad with me, Jared. What's going on, Jared?
Now that's an intro.
Had to overcompensate for the last few fluffs.
That's what I'm talking about. It's good to be back in the Harry Potter studios. It's so funny because the first couple minutes of us being in front of each other in Berlin felt so awkward, and now it's like, oh man, I got to settle back into having to look at you.
Right.
Oh my gosh, so far away. No, I actually love it. This is great. Chad is right. We had a great time. I took a lot of pictures. Actually, Don took a lot of pictures, and he's very friendly in sharing. And if you want to see them, you can follow us on Instagram, Untranslatable Podcast. If you want to follow us on Twitter, Untranslatable1, the number 1. You can see some pictures, not as much. That's what Instagram is for. But I also tweet out the song of the pod, and I talk to other people about my troubles with disk space.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So if you want to follow along with my hard drive issues, follow us on Untranslatable1 on Twitter. Or email us, untranslatablepodcast, if you have any solutions for that. Or if you want to tell us some untranslatables, which are sayings, idioms, things your family used to tell you that make sense to you, but you think about it, doesn't really make any sense. Or just tell us you like us, or you could always spread a little love and 5-star reviews.
Always
spread a little love. But yeah, it's good to be back. It is really good to be back. And the first thing that's great to be back, I every time I go on some sort of vacation, especially when it's international, but any vacation, first thing I do is I got to take a shower. Even though you really just sit around all day, it's still just like, I got to take a shower. And so I did that. It was very refreshing to use your own shower, to use your own
towels, body wash,
exactly.
Yeah.
And the comfort, I have my own, I have a speaker in there that's so it's just the comfort of my own setup. I don't feel like I'm getting athlete's foot. That's also nice.
Right.
So that was nice.
We're lucky we didn't get athlete's foot.
How long does it take to get athlete's foot? I don't think I've ever got it
question.
before.
I think you can get it pretty quick. Right. I don't know. We'll check back with us in a week or two to see, because we were very foolishly walking around Berlin. Jared and I were unprepared. We were walking around our hostel barefoot. But I have to say the hostel was kept fairly clean.
Yes, and I did like the setup in Prague, where there were multiple showers on each floor. We were in the same room both times. We went one day, went to Chomutov, then went another day, and we were in the same room both times. So I believe there are other floors, and it's the same setup on other floors.
It is, yeah. But
they have individual bathrooms for separate for doing your business and for showering. Mm-hmm. And there are a couple of them on each floor, and so you got the private, they're public, but you also got the privacy of your own thing going on, so you can relax a little bit.
Oh, definitely. It's not the same when you're showering 3 feet from your buddy.
But I'll say this: at Prague, all these hostels have almost like a if you go to public bathrooms, you push it down and it gives you sort of a timed water. The Prague one was way shorter.
Oh, it was super short.
You had to be consistent.
I was pushing that thing like crazy, for sure. Yeah.
But I get it, because people forget that stuff all the time, so I get it. But as I mentioned Love coming home to my own products, my own shower, the comfort of my towels. I know my own setup. But the second best part, excuse me, what the fuck am I talking about? The number one best part, the bed.
Oh, for sure, dude. I
mean, just imagine when you go back to Michigan in July.
Yeah,
but,
you're right.
Number one is the bed. And I did and I thought about this because I'm not sore, actually, surprisingly. You know, I'm a young, in shape man.
Young whippersnapper.
But we did some walking.
A lot of walking.
I want you to guess. So I have an iPhone, and it tracks steps and miles. You know, it's not 100% accurate, but it's a pretty good guesstimation. Mm-hmm. It's in the ballpark, give or take a couple miles, I'm sure. So how many? Let's see. Let me ask you this properly. How many miles do you think we walked over, as you said, 6 days?
Well, I think each day we walked at least 5 miles. So if we go by my calculations, 5 miles, 5 times 6 is 30? Is my math right?
Parada.
Okay, good. Glad I can still do basic multiplication. But I have a feeling
you were very hesitant there.
I was, right? Well, hey, we're live on air. I don't want to.
He's a language teacher.
Not, exactly. I'm not a math or a science person. But I would guess some days we walked more than 5 miles.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna guess. I mean, I would guess 40, but I think we could have walked more. Am I in the ballpark?
What you just said is correct. We
so
could
more
have
than
walked
40.
More.
Okay.
And we did walk more.
I'm just going to go with 50.
That's pretty close. One more guess. That's very close.
55.
51.5 miles.
Wow. That's crazy.
Second question.
Uh-huh.
How many steps?
Ooh, dear Lord.
This is to the T, by the way. I added this up with a calculator. This is
okay.
To the T according to my iPhone, obviously.
Sure. Let's see here. So 51.2 miles.
51.5 miles. So 51 and a half miles.
Oh man, how many steps are?
I wonder. Let me get that in kilometers too. While you're doing some.
Good call. Good call. Let's see here. Well, I think isn't like 10,000 steps? Isn't that around 5 miles?
I believe so.
I feel like I'm becoming that meme of Zach Galifianakis when he's in The Hangover.
Yes.
And you know all the numbers and stuff when they go into the casino.
Before you guess that, how many kilometers do you think it is? We'll do that first.
Kilometers. Wouldn't it be like, I don't know, 29 kilometers?
Other way around. Miles are longer than kilometers.
Oh, okay. Oh, shoot. Okay. So then, I don't know.
Because, kilometers, 200 is 200 is 160, for example, or 100 is...
You must love putting me on the spot right now, making me do
it's
math.
82 kilometers. Let's go back to my original question.
Okay, 82 kilometers. The steps. I don't know. I would have to say that's got to be, I don't know, 150,000 steps.
It's pretty close. 127,000.
Really? Okay.
149 steps.
Those Sambas were doing some work while you were here, Jared. That's for sure.
They really were. And, I shout out to Adidas because they kept my feet. They were great. So, yeah, that was, that's got to be a record for me for a while. And that in itself is a reason why I think I got to get back there more because it keeps me in shape.
That's true. I mean, I've lost, I think, 3 or 4 kilos, maybe even 5 now since I've been here. And it's just that walking around. I'm sure I've gained some of that back while you guys were here because we were
eating
some savory foods and drinking a couple of beers here and there. But
just a few.
Yeah. It was a great time though, man. And I have to say, what I've learned from our trip, here's an early little teaser of our main topic. What I've learned from our trip is sometimes no plan is the best plan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it helps to have someone... I think it also helps to have someone that roughly knows the area.
Sure. Yeah.
Especially in Prague. Berlin's maybe a little easier to go full planless than Prague.
That's true.
Berlin is so much more open than Prague.
Right. And Berlin, you can... there's
also more visible because there's less taverns.
Right. And less less basement basement bars as well, where you don't have any cell reception either. So,
which is a nice touch,
right? It is. It makes you talk to people and not just be a cell phone zombie, which is definitely great. And I think it's a problem that a lot of younger people have, is
including me, by the way.
Me too. I'm not. Me too. Yeah, I'm not trying to be one of those.
We're not the old people in the room. We are these young people that.
Right. But I've been trying really hard, one, to reduce my screen time with my phone, and two, to be more present in the moment.
Yeah, I try that too. I feel more and more guilty whipping out my phone these days, and especially since I try to. It kind of annoys me when other people do it too.
Right. Well, it's funny. I love watching to see how long people go. Like if their friend leaves to go to the bathroom, right? How quickly do they whip out their phone?
Sometimes what I like to see is if I'm talking to someone and they're on their phone and they claim they're listening, how long I can just stop talking before they notice that I haven't been talking for like 30 seconds or like 45 seconds or something like that. Or
even better is if you just start saying a bunch of nonsense. They're like on their phone and you're like yeah, and then
then I ran them over with my car,
right?
And
right,
it was kind of funny,
exactly.
So I decided I'd just run someone else over, and then I started going 100 down the city street, and they're like,
they're just like, yeah, yeah, oh, cool, all right, yeah.
And then I slammed to a bank and stole a bunch of money and ran away.
Okay. Yeah, crazy.
I've actually done that a couple times too. Maybe not that extreme, but I've definitely done something. What I've done is I've just been like, "You're not listening." Oh, it's interesting that you're not listening to me right now. And they're like,
That's really good. Yeah, I wonder how many times I can say you're not listening to me right now until you realize what I'm saying. Yeah, cool. Yeah, great. Yeah.
And those people claim that they're good at double tasking and that they can't pay attention. It's like, it's okay if you're not. Just admit it.
Right. Oh, I'm a horrible multitasker. Anyone. That's why before we started recording this episode, I was telling Jared I'm trying to keep my tabs to a bare minimum now so I can completely focus on our conversation in the podcast.
I require it. We had to have a behind-the-scenes talk. I said, hey.
That's right. It was an intervention. I came back to my room in Chomutov.
I'm feeling lonely over here. It feels like you're paying more attention to those tabs than me.
Exactly. Speaking of cell phones, though, it was funny while we were traveling. Jared knows this, but our listeners don't. I had lost, I'd used up all my data. And so in Berlin, I was using my phone a lot to navigate how to get to places and where to go because I don't know the city that well. And I always forget every time I go to Berlin how huge it is.
And I didn't realize gigantic. For the first couple days that I had... actually, my plan wasn't set up like that, but I realized after that I could get the plan where it's an additional $10 a day for international, and it's just my normal plan.
Which isn't too bad.
Right, especially for 6 days. It's not that bad.
Exactly.
And I have a pretty good plan here, too, so it was pretty freeing.
Yeah, definitely. And that's just what I was going to say. It's weird, though. We talked about how people are too attached to their phones, which I think is true. But sometimes it's also a necessary evil you need to use,
I had to, for example, because my flight out of Berlin was pretty early. It left at 7:05, so I needed to get there pretty early. I booked a taxi on my phone for 5 a.m. And it's that some stuff like that is, possibly I could have gotten Wi-Fi somewhere, but it is nice to just be able to do that early and not have to worry about me being somewhere to do stuff like that.
Definitely.
But the taxi driver actually, he first he asked me in German where I'm going, where I'm going, and I responded in German. Then is it ich gehe zurück, or excuse me, I said fliege. Ich fliege zurück nach Hause or zu Hause.
Nach Hause.
Yes.
Ich fliege nach Hause.
Good. Okay.
Yeah.
So I said it right. But anyway, he said, wohin, and I said, Philadelphia, and then he started talking to me about the Super Bowl and what was the celebration like after the Super Bowl.
Oh, nice.
And I was like, you could imagine, it was insanity.
Right. Oiled up all the poles, and people were still climbing them.
And he's like, it doesn't seem like they did that well next season. I was like, no, I think they're still hungover from the celebration.
Oh, that might be true. That might be true. Yeah, nice.
Yeah. It was weird too because the Berlin airport is something I don't think I've ever experienced before. Each gate has its own check-in desk and security portal thingy. And so you go and you have to check in at the place. You can't check in online. So there was a pretty long line, but it moved pretty quickly, and I got there early enough. However, in Heathrow, and that was deceiving. That was deceiving. My plane left at 9:55 from Heathrow, and I landed at about, say, 8:25, 8:30. So that's touchdown.
Right.
Got to the gate at about I don't know when I got to the gate, but I got to the gate, and then you have to take a bus to your own separate terminal. And so everyone's getting off this plane, and this is obviously an international flight, so it's a giant plane. And this is also Heathrow, so not necessarily the only international flight coming in at any point in time.
Yeah.
So there's probably the bus between waiting for the bus and getting to the terminal is probably like 30 to 45 minutes. So then I'm like, okay. And so I'm like, oh, I got enough time though. But then I forget, I got to go through security again.
Yep.
And so I have to go through security, and so that is a couple more minutes waiting. And then I think luckily I did not have to go through customs. I had to show my boarding pass. And, on the way, you know what I did have to do, though? I didn't have to go through customs, but before I got onto the bus, for only specific American Airlines flights, I think that for some reason, we had to go through a separate questioning, and this is crazy. So, they look at your passport, and they're like, where are you going? And I'm like, I'm going back home to Philadelphia. Like, oh, where were you while you were gone? I was like, Berlin and Prague. For vacation, and she's like, "Oh, what's your favorite site that you saw?" And when she said that, I was like, the brand of Tour," and it just caught me off guard,
right?
And I was like, and I was like,
you don't want to answer the wrong.
I have to imagine just like.
right.
We got
please.
Sir, you've been selected for a random screening.
Big Ben. Oh wait, I wasn't in England. Oh shit, what do I? Yeah. Oh my god. Oh, the Eiffel Tower. Oh shit, no, I wasn't in Paris. Right. Oh man. You could have said anything too. You could have said anything. You could have.
I know.
The East Side Gallery or.
I know,
but you're right though. When they put you on the spot like that, it's kind of like, what do I say?
Like I was that kind of exhausted where I was kind of running on like autopilot almost,
Sure.
Because
we had a long 6 days.
Even in a difficult airport, because I'll get to that. Even in a difficult airport, once you've been to enough airports, you can just kind of run on autopilot through them. Most of them that I've been to, except for a couple, are pretty well set up. And so anyway, so I get through security. I get through the questioning, get on the bus, go through security, waiting security's line, and that was all right. That was another couple minutes, but time's adding up. And so at that point, it's about 9:10, let's say.
Ooh, your flight 9:35? Is that what you said?
My flight leaves at 9:55 from Heathrow. So I really had to pee because I hadn't peed since I left Berlin. And so I go pee real quick, and it's about and then I forget that just because I'm in the terminal, Heathrow is still a gigantic airport,
right? So
I have to go through like this labyrinth of and so it literally turns from my mom and God bless my mom because she when I left Berlin I was telling her I was going through Heathrow. And I'm leaving whatever. And she's like, "All right, just remember Heathrow's a big airport. Don't miss your flight. Don't
lollygag."
And I'm like, "Okay, I'm an adult."
Thanks, Mom.
So the progression of me leaving the bathroom went from a medium-paced walk, a good Jared walk, to a solid Jared walk, to a slight jog.
Okay.
And I because it's like one more turn.
Gallop.
Because what it said was I was 24, and it was like 8:21 to 60 something this way, and I was like, okay, and then it says, but halfway through that it says 8:21 to 25 this way, and that's another cutoff, and that was a whole other hallway randomly.
Right. Oh
so I was like, that's a hallway for, and I was like, and so when I saw that hallway, I looked at the clock, I was like 9:25, 9:30, okay,
right.
And so I start jogging, and I see a sign that says gate closing. And I was like, oh, fuck. And so that's when I was like, whoo, 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 whoo. And I get there, and luckily, as I see it, there's a pretty long line still. So I'm like, all right, I'm good.
Nice. Okay.
But so I get to the line, and I'm like, oh, my God. And I hear someone on the phone behind me. He's like, Mike, where are you? Did you have your back, right? You need to run. No, where's Chris? No. It says closing. And so I don't know what happened to them. I don't give a fuck. But so I got there and my heart was beating. And then so I went, you have to do another boarding pass and security check. I had a boarding pass. She looked at my boarding pass. She went to go get me a new boarding pass. And that took a long time. And then you have to give your boarding pass to someone after that. This is Heathrow. They don't fuck around, apparently.
Right.
And I wasn't, and he like checks you off on some list, and he looked on the list, and he's like, I don't see your name. And I was like, she just gave me that boarding pass right there.
Right.
I'm looking at her. I could touch her if from where I'm standing. And so he calls over another lady and says, I don't see him on the list. And she looks at the list and she looks at me. She's like, sir, you've been selected for a random screening. And I was like, oh my God.
Really?
And so they looked.
Oh God. Okay. So, continue.
So I went over to it's kind of like Berlin in the sense that each gate has its own sort of separate little region. A lot of European airports are like that. Each gate has its own sort of region. You can't just go to another gate. And so they have a table set up on the side, and they pull all they don't really pull all the shit out in my duffel bag because that's all closed, but she feels around in it, moves stuff around. And she pulls stuff out of my bag. She's looking in my my podcast bag with my mixer and shit. And she's like, sir, will you open this, please? And she's like, sir, would you please open this bag? Is this yours? Could you zip on the zipper? And then there's a dude that's, feeling me up real nice. And I'm like, please take me to dinner first. Yeah. And obviously they don't find anything. But that definitely, luckily because I knew I had nothing, it didn't make me nervous. But it did make me think that, I've heard of people not being concerned with traveling with stuff. So that's a tip for those people that aren't afraid to travel with quote unquote stuff. Don't do it at Heathrow.
Don't do it anywhere.
That's true.
But yeah.
But they did not fuck around. There were a lot of people getting randomly selected. First I felt it like, oh yeah, no, randomly select the brown guy. But I was because that did happen in Paris. When I came back from Vienna, it was me that got randomly seleced. And it was they were like from Muslims, Michigan. Right? So they were Chaldeans. So they were Michigan Chaldeans. Mm-hmm. And it was him and his sister. And he was like, oh, yeah, what a coincidence. The brown people get randomly selected. And then they separated, and then the people separated us. And then they separated me by pushing me to the front of the line. And when they started boarding, I just looked around and I just walked in. I just gave the people my boarding pass and walked in. And they never, yeah. So there were a bunch of people. There was one woman that was clearly from Philadelphia. This is, I'm sorry, I've been going on for so long, but this was, she was clearly from Philadelphia because the British woman was extra nice. She's like, can I please check your hair? Can I please? And she's like, yeah. And she's like, can I please? She's like, yeah. Well, you don't have to ask me every time. Just do it. Right. And then she's like, can I please? She's like, yeah. She's like, put my foot out. Go do it. and then she went over to her daughter.
Can you please stop asking me? Can you please?
And then she went over to her daughter who hadn't been randomly selected, and she was like, she kept asking me every question, and I kept repeating yes. And I was like, what do you want me to do? Squat down for you? Right.
What if you say no? Like, can I please check it? Nope.
I know. Yeah. Nope. All right. Like, well, then you can't go home.
Right.
Then I'm going to call the cops, and you're going to get arrested in British airport jail.
Right. Well, I'm glad you made it back to your flight safely. And,
yeah. I had no contraband. And then you know what made me feel extra great about being back in America is it was the complete opposite. So they now have a kiosk system, which I did not know. And so you just type, they ask you all those, you have to, that blue paper they give you usually? Yeah. You don't have to do that anymore. It's all through a kiosk, and they give you a receipt.
Okay.
And then you give the receipt to the customs guy, and he was like, what were you doing? What were your purpose of your travels? Like, just vacation. He's like, all right, see ya.
Oh, nice.
And that was it. And I was like, goddamn right. It's good to be an American.
That's right. I've had problems though when I've come back from Germany, and they've asked me a slew of questions. Why were you there? I've never had problems what coming back to the U.S. I've gotten asked a couple questions, but I've never really had any
Nothing overly. It's usually more going into other places where I get most of the questions.
Paris
has been a big
I'll
one.
never forget though. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. In Paris.
I was gonna say Paris and London have kind of been big ones for me too.
Okay. Okay. Interesting. I'll never forget. I came back home from Germany with my dad, and I was 17 at the time, and they asked me a bunch of times, like, "You're sure you're his son?" And I'm like, "Do you not see the both of us?"
What kind of weird sex trafficking is this?
Right. I mean, I guess they have to ask, which I appreciate, but it's like, yeah. I mean, our passports match up. I
Yeah.
look like him.
Yeah.
You know, picture me with gray hair and a bit of a belly, and we're twins.
You guys do look. I mean, to me, you guys do look very similar.
Oh,
you just look
definitely.
like a younger, brown-haired. I mean, for now, version. Of
Right.
him.
I was gonna say, yeah, getting these grays slowly coming in, so we'll see how long that lasts.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, I'm glad you made it back safe. Your journey was all right. We'll talk more about our travels and all of
For
our
sure.
shenanigans in a bit.
For sure.
But now I think it's time to.
Spread a little love. I'm with you.
That's
I'm
right.
With you.
And the first thing that I'd like to say, I'm sure you've heard about this, Jared. Unfortunately, there was the shooting at the mosque in New Zealand.
I did see that. Yeah.
And I just want to give a shout out to all of the people that have been involved in this, who have lost a friend or a family member. It's such a shame that we still have these issues where, people in mosques or synagogues or churches or movie theaters or schools, anywhere that, people can be innocently gunned down. And it's just such a shame. So here at the Untranslatable podcast, we send all of our love and good vibes, and I would say prayers, but I don't think either of us are very religious.
No,
so
but
we'll
what
stick
we
with
do
love and good vibes.
Yeah. Spread a little love. We do spread love, though. And I do believe, and this is not meme news, but I heard this from a friend, so I haven't actually checked this, but that they did quickly after that enact some sort of law banning certain weapons. If
So
I'm not mistaken.
that's my second shout out is to
Spread
the
a little
country of New
love.
Zealand, who are banning semi-automatic weapons. It took one day. We are now on day 1,055 in the United States. And look, here's the thing.
Yeah.
Right. Here's the thing. I'm not saying that the government should take away all guns. And I don't think in America that will
I think
ever
that's
be
almost
possible.
impossible at this point.
Right. But I think we do need to have some type of smarter regulation. And people say, oh, well, criminals can still get guns illegally. It's like, yes, of course they can. But at the same time, if you make the access to guns a lot more difficult and you try to regulate it better, I would assume that some of this might be decreased.
Well, that's annoying too, because they say the option essentially is do nothing. Because what those same people say is that no, it's the people. We need to invest in in healthcare and but it's like, oh, but you don't want to. It's kind of like a contradiction, because it's like,
don't
no, it's
wanna
not the
do that
guns.
either.
It's
Right.
not the guns, it's the people. You know how many of these people are on psychiatric meds that do this? It's like, oh, yeah, but you guys are also against easier. Excuse me, I don't know why I'm doing this. Easier attainable healthcare.
Right.
It's
Exactly.
just a contradiction.
Right. And it just keeps turning and turning. My next shout out goes out to the Irish Prime Minister. Have you heard about this?
I have not.
So Vice President Mike Pence, who has been very open on his stance against the LGBT community, against homosexuality, he went to visit the Irish Prime Minister visited him in D.C., and the Irish Prime Minister, Leo Varadkar, took his partner, Matthew Barrett, with him on Thursday as he met with Vice President
Spread a little
Mike
love.
Pence at his residence in Washington, D.C. Pence, obviously, who I mentioned, is a conservative Christian and has opposed same-sex marriage and the repeal of the Don't Ask, Don't Tell policy in the past. And so I think that is the coolest kind of little side eye or petty thing to do, is like,
Yeah.
I'm going to come to your residence and I'm bringing my partner with me.
And it's been a situation where it's like you kind of have to accept me, because how bad would it look if you denied me? That would look so much worse.
Right.
So it's a little like I like that. That's great. That's cool.
Yeah. So I think that's pretty awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And then my last shout out for today Have you heard about Egg Boy, Jared?
No.
Oh, man. Now, when this episode drops, this might even be old news because
Should
we
I
all
look
know
it
how
up?
fast. No,
I can play it.
I'm going to tell you. I'll tell you. Don't
Okay.
worry. But yeah, the way, with social media nowadays, news, what's viral goes so quick, right? But this is pretty crazy. So, Egg Boy is what they're calling this guy. And let me find his name right here. So 17-year-old William Connolly, who is from, I believe, Victoria. He egged this politician from Fraser Anning, who had released a statement in reaction to Friday's Christchurch massacre, where he basically said something along the... Or Christchurch, thank you. That's the name of the...
Fregista.
Right. But he apparently had said a bunch of basically pretty clear and blatantly racist stuff about how, the reason why we have all these problems is Muslims. And it's like, dude, the Muslims were the ones who got killed this time.
Right.
Like, how stupid can you be?
I mean, it's just willful ignorance.
Oh, absolutely. But so this is what's really funny. So here's the headline. Support floods in for Egg Boy, the internet's new political hero. It's hard to imagine how one chicken ovum or egg and one 17-year-old could bring the world so much joy. Egg Boy made that happen. So right here, many powerful words have been said against Anning, the senator, his hateful take on the tragedy. However, only one Australian was brave enough to take action, and that Australian was Egg Boy. Yesterday, Anning was giving a small press conference in Moorabbin, Victoria, when Egg Boy, a.k.a. William Connolly, calmly walked up behind the senator, whipped out his phone, and cracked an egg right on Anning's noggin.
Oh, man.
And there's videos of this as well. And so what's crazy though is this went viral instantly, and now there's actually a GoFundMe page to pay for Connolly's legal fees.
Did he get tackled?
Plus more eggs. Not only did he get tackled, but a bunch of these, huge grown ass men pinned him down. And I think he also got punched as well, but either by the senator or by somebody else.
Oh, by the senator?
Or somebody. Maybe not the senator.
People to do that for him?
He probably does. But what's really funny is there are a bunch of music groups now who have offered Egg Boy or Connolly lifetime free tickets to their shows.
That's great.
Which is pretty awesome. And you know what? Look, cracking an egg on somebody, I feel like is a much better political protest than obviously doing something really violent. But I think it makes a good statement.
Harmless,
it's kind of
yet
funny.
Defiant.
Right. And what's funny is I saw a comment somewhere online that said something like, it had to take an Egg Boy to crack the egg to show the true signs of a chicken. They were calling this guy a chicken. So I thought that was kind of the chicken before the egg kind of thing. So it was kind of funny.
I can imagine the newspapers having fun with that.
Right. So yeah, right here, one of the comments says, from Violent Soho, which I believe is a band. Yeah, it's a band. So their response to the video. So this kid pulls out his phone, right? And then with his other hand, cracks the egg.
One-handed crack too?
I don't really know. I need
that
to watch,
itself is pretty impressive.
But right here, Violent Soho at Violent Soho says, "Holy shit!" He full smacks him with a lefty, and Egg Boy just cops it and keeps filming. Cool as you like, mate. What a legend. Egg Boy has a guest list for life. Hell, he can be our official photographer too. Love you, Egg Boy.
That's great.
So, pretty crazy stuff, right?
That's cool.
But yeah, I think in today's political climate, I think cracking an egg over a racist, willfully ignorant and racist politician's head.
I'm okay with that.
I'm okay with it too. So yeah.
So
Jared,
dude,
do you yeah?
It's just been too long. Yes, I do have the time. I'm sorry I cut you off. I didn't mean to. But it's just been so long since I have actively... I got a little lazy over vacation. I was enjoying myself.
You were on vacation? Exactly, It happens.
Yeah, I didn't have time to put in the level of preparation I wanted to, except the video, I must admit, came out pretty great.
Oh, yeah.
However, I'm back with two. The first one is Tagalog. Thank you to Jeff for making sure I say that correctly. I still remember that. And it's, excuse me, eyes are getting weak here, son. Binyangan Nayan, which literally means baptize it already.
Baptize it already. Is that just finish it already?
This actually relates to, I'll give you an example. No, that's not it. I'll give you an example. So, you mentioned at the beginning of the show my sambas, and I can tell you this: I baptized my new sambas last week.
Okay. So just baptize. Does it have? It's not shoe specific, is it?
Not shoe specific. No,
okay.
Not shoe specific. No. But I definitely baptized my sambas last week, according to this Tagalog Untranslatable.
Just baptize it already. Doesn't that? Is that like when you have something you like? Just use it already.
That's exactly what it is.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's time to use it and get it dirty. Like a new thing. Time to use it and get a new thing dirty.
Okay.
And I didn't get my sambas dirty because they're very resilient to getting dirty. It
was also raining a lot, so clean them off maybe a little too.
But I definitely got a good use out of them. 51.5 miles, 127,149 steps. Do you have one?
Work right there. Of course I have one. Always. My first one for you is Czech, Jared.
All right.
Or should I say Jart?
Výborný.
And it is Ma stejnou krevní skupinu. And it means they have the same blood group as you.
Is it like you're my homie? It's like this is fam?
You can hit that ham horn. I'll give it to you. I mean, it's kind of like how we say you're cut from the same cloth, or like.
I gotcha. Yeah.
You know.
So it's not completely what I said, but it's kind of close.
It's close. I also love the term "brother from another mother."
Yes,
and also the female
classic
version, "a sister from another mister."
Okay. I gotcha. What's the literal again?
The same. They have the same blood group as you.
They have the same blood group as you. I like
Ma
that.
stejnou krevní skupinu.
All right, my next one is Yoruba. I found another one.
Nice.
It's been a while. I figured I'd get some good stuff. This is also some tough stuff. Anepe gebene I akoko ni yoju. And it means a sculptor is summoned and the woodpecker shows up. A sculptor is summoned.
Did you do this one?
Damn, did I? I couldn't remember if I did it.
It sounds familiar, but hold up. A sculpture is summoned.
I
and
might
the
have, but
woodpecker
I wasn't
shows
sure if I did it.
up. Let's see how good my memory is. Isn't this where a sculptor is summoned and the woodpecker shows up?
It's my worst nightmare.
Isn't it? I'm surprised I haven't duplicated my Czech ones yet. To be honest,
I've duplicated a couple times. I feel like I should be better. We
both have. When you're on episode 77 of the Untranslatables, it's bound to happen.
I guess so.
But I think this is where, if
not
I remember
everyone's heard
correctly,
it though.
That's also true. To be honest, if I wouldn't have said anything, I don't know if anyone really would have caught on. But anyways, I think what this means is when isn't it like when you're when somebody else kind of shows up and is like adding their 2 cents, like kind of like if I were to maybe I had to do
I'm gonna say no. I'm gonna say you're not even close. Actually,
not even close. Is it okay?
I mean, kind of. You're kind of close, but
is it like what if I had to renovate my apartment, and I call somebody over to renovate it, and then someone else shows up and is kind of like the whole time is like, oh well, you could do it this way, or you could do it that way. It's not like that.
Not really. No.
Okay. What is it?
It means to never think too highly of yourself. So saying you're claiming to be like this amazing sculptor. But
you're just a woodpecker.
But a bird shows up and does a better job than you or something like that.
I see. Okay.
You're not that. It's not that impressive,
I like that. Okay.
So that. even if I have said it before, we all forgot. So
okay. Nice. So this one is also Czech, and it is těžký jazyk, which means like a heavy tongue. Těžký jazyk.
It doesn't mean you swear a lot, does it?
It does not, no.
Is that like another word for drunk?
You're getting close, yeah.
Exhausted, super tired.
I think it's a side effect of
Hungover.
when you get drunk.
Slurring.
There you go.
Ooh.
There you go.
Okay.
We might have had a bit of a heavy tongue a couple nights when we were in Berlin or Prague, that's for sure.
Maybe. I will say, while we were there, that's the most beer I've drank in a long time.
Oh, definitely.
Besides for the odd, was it not Krušovice, so that's also a beer. Not
Hruškovice.
Hruškovice. And we have maybe 2 of those.
We had one of those.
We also had one at the Usudu. Remember, we got a round
got you
of
a Becherovka.
Yeah. So besides for a Becherovka and a Hruškovice, your students are listening to this, cracking up right now.
Oh, I'm sure they are. Anybody in the Czech Republic is listening to this and probably cracking up right now. But yeah, the Becherovka and the Hruškovice.
Besides for those 2,
it was all beer.
It was all beer, and I knew Berlin was going to be a quote-unquote drinking culture because it's a party culture.
Right.
But Berlin's not really that kind of drinking culture. Berlin's more of a party drinking culture, which is a little bit more efficient than the... but that's another thing I noticed. Apparently, I'm a very... I do as a slow drinker, but I am a slow drinker, apparently. But it's for my own safety.
Hey, we're here to enjoy it, not to chug it. You know.
We also want to be able to tell a story after. We're professional podcasters here.
That's right. We don't need those heavy tongues. That's for sure.
I don't fully remember what happened after this part, but
right. But it was a wild trip. I'm curious, Jared. You know, Berlin and Prague, they were first time destinations for you. Mm-hmm. So can you give our listeners out there, especially the ones who have not visited these cities, like what were kind of your impressions? What did you like? Maybe also were there some things you didn't like?
When we were still there, you know, kind of close to the closing out, you a couple times you asked me what was my favorite stuff in different areas, and I think I struggled to answer that because it was still too fresh in my mind.
Sure.
But as I back away from it, some things that still stand out to me is I really enjoyed the once again, do you remember the key word from Berlin that I had to explain it?
The aesthetic.
Yes. I really enjoyed the aesthetic of Berlin a lot. I was not. I'm not even gonna say Berlin. I'm gonna say Kreuzberg because the neighborhoods, the Kietzes are different. I really enjoyed the aesthetic of Kreuzberg with all the sort of the, what did you call it with the random art pieces out there? You had like a word for it. I don't remember what it was.
Oh, shoot.
But almost sort of like a practical art kind of thing. I don't remember exactly what you called it.
It might have been practical art. Urban art? Could that have been
essentially, that's essentially what it was. I very much enjoyed it. It was urban, yet it still had that European city feel. I was shocked at how much English there was. Maybe if it was a place I lived, and I would prefer a little bit more German. But as someone that speaks good enough German to speak German, I think there's still enough German for me to be able to practice it. You know what I mean? Like I wouldn't lose it there. That's for sure.
Oh, definitely not. But the thing about Berlin is it's a place where you don't necessarily need to speak it perfect. Like, we went to Hopfenreich, and the one night the guy was British working behind the bar. Or both of them
nights. I don't remember what the girl was the night before, but she was, talking to her coworker or whatever, or a friend who was sitting at the bar, and they were speaking English the whole time.
Right, and that, I don't know. It's kind of weird. I'm conflicted about it because Berlin is definitely obviously a very multicultural and metropolitan city. But I think everybody should be able to speak German, especially if you work in the service industry.
Yeah, it was surprising at the... Oh, another one of my favorite things about Berlin, and this also goes to one of your complaints, was the karaoke bar. That was a unique thing. I've never done anything like that. Especially, I've been to karaoke situations, even though I've never done karaoke. But this time, I did it, not on a big stage, but another thing that I haven't experienced before is the booths. Right. Which is a great way to meet people because especially on a night like we were going when there was a low.
It was a blast.
Where there weren't a lot of people there, but you don't really notice because they they're quick to shut down booths that don't have anyone in them. That sort of kind of forces people into a couple booths to make it more social. And so that's cool, and that was fun. We met a bunch of people and had a good time. And we met that one girl, as we mentioned before, that was a great MC to
that was
to the
hilarious.
booth.
Yeah, she was fantastic.
And so that was a really fun place. But the sort of, I don't even know if I call her a bouncer, but sort of the host or whatever, a bouncer, that she was maybe in her 50s, 60s, and
Probably,
she was
yeah.
she made no attempt to speak German. She was an American woman, clearly.
Yep.
And I and both you and I spoke German to the Czech person, and he responded in English, and it didn't seem like his German was that good.
Right. Yeah, and
I think he was British, maybe, or something like that.
could be, but I just don't. Maybe it's because you and I are big language nerds, or
We're excited to speak German because we spoke
Right.
German in Berlin for, I'd say, 75% of the time.
yeah, somewhere around there.
65% of the time,
but see,
maybe.
I started to feel guilty. I know you were partly joking about me speaking German, so you can't say much. But I did feel a little guilty. I know you were joking.
No. But I know
felt
you. No, but I get what you're saying, though. I wasn't saying it to. I wasn't saying that to say you were preventing me from it. But there is some truth to it. It did feel slightly limiting for
Sure.
me.
But I think also, next time you come visit, we'll have to speak a lot more German. We may be in Germany anyways. We'll see.
We'll talk about that later.
We'll see. But the thing is, I think if we would have spent the full 6 days in Berlin, I think by day 4 or day 5, you would have started to get way more into the swing of things. Because it takes me a couple of days.
But I think 4 or 5 days. Not that it's too much time in Berlin, but I think I don't think it's too much time in Berlin at all. But I think I would have preferred, if I were to choose in general, I think I prefer to split that into two separate places like we did.
Oh, for sure. I think we
Because I
definitely
think I could have
made the
gotten
right
old.
choice.
Just a consistent going out to different clubs until 4. I feel like
Right.
that would have gotten old after maybe 3 days.
Oh, definitely.
Even though
Most
there's
definitely.
still, even though there's plenty that we could have seen, it gets old.
And that leads me to my next question, Jared. So first, I guess maybe we should do this segment, start with Berlin and then move on to Prague since we did that later.
Okay.
So we did a lot in Berlin. We were always on the move, that's for sure, figuratively and literally. And I'm just wondering, are there any things that you're like, man, I really wish we could have done that while we were in Berlin, and I have to do that next time I'm there?
There are a couple places. I feel like I'm going to need your help with this because you're better with the names than I am.
Okay.
But a couple places. There were a couple places Matthias mentioned, weren't there? That we didn't go to. One place that played music, I think.
Oh yeah, the jazz bar.
Yeah, that I really wanted to go to, but it just wasn't feasible because it was kind of out of the
Right.
way of everything else too.
Right. Yeah, the jazz bar, I'm trying to remember the name. It's like the name of the street and then like 141 or 145 or something.
I don't remember exactly what it was. Actually, let's see if I have it written down because it might still be in my notes.
I think you wrote it down. The other thing
Donau
is...
115.
There you go. Donau 115.
Karl
Donau
Marx would have been cool to see as well. We did not do that.
Yep. I think you mean Karl Marx Allee.
I made the exact same mistake
Yep.
on last episode.
Yeah, I agree with you. So
how I still have it written
Berlin
down.
round Untranslatable does Berlin round 2. Definitely, we'll have to check out that jazz club, Karl Marx Allee for sure. What else?
I'm trying to think.
I mean, the other thing that I really wanted to do was go to that rooftop bar, Klunker Kranich.
Yes.
But the problem
Who told
was
us about that?
My buddy Krishna. So shout out to Krishna.
Oh, right. We talked about that on last podcast.
Right, correct.
Before
but
we
the
came
problem
here.
was it was rainy the whole time we were in Berlin, and it's
Right.
a rooftop bar.
Right.
So
and
I'm sure.
it seemed like just an unnecessary risk going there because it's like
Right.
maybe some of it's covered, but maybe only half of it's covered. Then it's even less space and blah 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 blah.
Right. And the other thing for me personally, I would like to go back to where my dad studied art in Berlin, which is
Why didn't we go there?
We were busy. We were running all over the place, remember?
That's true. That's true.
And we went to the Kurfürstendamm and we had dinner. And then it was already dark.
Oh, that's a good point. I forgot about that.
It's hard to squeeze. That's the thing about Berlin. I think you need to make a couple trips of it to really see. And I would say we didn't even come close to seeing all of it. Berlin is so huge and there's so much to see and so much to do. I was definitely satisfied, though, the fact that we got currywurst and we got schnitzel.
And if anyone follows us on Untranslatable podcast, or if you're Chad and you see the messages I send them, you see I had that final currywurst and a beer right outside of, I believe it was Friedrichstrasse,
Nice.
Bahnhof, excuse me. And, oh man, it was... that will be. There was a McDonald's right next door, and I just looked at all those people like suckers.
Right.
Mine was because every currywurst and all the fries. As soon as you order the fries, that's when they put their hand into it and dip them into the fryer. As soon as you order the sausage, they put it on there, so you get it, and it's hot AF.
And it's
and
fresh.
That cold beer. It's a full like a half liter of beer. And it just really hit the spot because I was pretty hungry too after the 4-hour bus ride.
Oh, I believe it.
It was a packed bus for most of it, but what was nice is the guy sitting in the window seat, and I'm sure the computer sets it up this way so people aren't constantly crossing over people. But he slept the entire time and maybe woke up for like 10 minutes for the entire trip. So it was nice, even though I was sitting next to someone who was about my size and he was asleep the entire time. So it was very unintrusive.
And so he didn't pull any Chad snore wake-ups, did he?
No, he was a silent sleeper, unlike you.
Okay. See, my problem is I get my head back like that.
Right.
And I get and it wakes me up, jolts me up. Jared knows. Jared definitely knows.
I do. I wish I was able to catch it on camera, but I'd have to creepily be filming you for a while.
Oh, man. Yeah, that's true.
At least it's not consistent. I'll give you that.
Right. Sometimes it is consistent, but
I haven't seen it on the train. I'll put it that way, or on the bus.
But
So yeah, I'd say that's Berlin. I really enjoyed speaking German. I realized how I enjoyed it, and I did slightly come back over the days, but I realized how much I've been away from it, and how much how much improvement, the room for improvement there is. And it kind of bummed me out, but it was also surprisingly hard to speak a lot of German in Berlin. Who knew?
Right. It doesn't really surprise me, though. I think if you went to other places that were a little smaller, like Dresden, Leipzig, or other like smaller cities, then you're good to go. Or what I think is the best is if you can take a train and go chill in like a little town for a day or two, because then it's all German.
Oh yeah. I'm sure if I visit you in your next German adventure, we could probably find some places like that.
Yeah, I think so. All right, so we've covered Berlin, and there's definitely a lot of other stuff we could have done, but it's
correct.
You can't squeeze it all in. I think had we have really planned it to the T, maybe we could have, but I was not. I don't think either of us were looking or interested in that type of vacation where
and
everything
we didn't have
planned.
Much downtime.
Right, we didn't.
Prague.
So I've been to Prague many times, so I don't really want to add my 2 cents here. What are your thoughts? It was your first time there, got to try some Czech food.
First thing I have to say is we did not get to do the Maps Off challenge.
Which was a bummer.
Apologies to everyone. We did not get to do that. We
slipping on gator piss.
However, it was for a good reason. I think you and I can both agree it was 100% worth it.
Oh, definitely.
Because I mentioned before that we were trying to set up some things. But it was on kind of a short notice, and we managed to find a time to meet up with Joanna Jenkins. But the only time she had free was during our Maps Off challenges, because it was during our Maps Off challenge, and because we both, all of us have busy schedules. It's funny, had busy schedules yet had nothing planned, but we were planning to meet your friend Alex around 7:00, which gave us a good, gave us 2.5 hours, which initially I think we all thought would have been more than enough time.
Right.
But we could have talked to her forever. We could have probably kept talking for a couple. We had a couple more Pivos and kept talking.
Definitely. And Joanna Jenkins is an amazing woman. She is such a good conversationalist. I mean, I felt, It's always
I felt
can be a
out of
little
out of my league a little bit.
right. Well, that's the thing. I felt like she was interviewing you and I, and she seemed really, really interested and invested in our conversation, which is always great because not everyone is like that,
I think I struggle to be like that. I mean, I've talked about it a lot.
Right. But it was just so wonderful meeting her and talking to her, and we're looking forward to having her on sometime in the near future to hear about her experience. And as Jared and I, we kind of made eye contact after she had a brief discussion with the waitress about what her next beer would be. Man, her Czech is good.
Yeah.
Parada.
It's. I mean, she's lived there for 21 years, so I guess it's not that surprising.
Right.
But just as Americans, just to be having a casual conversation and then just see her to look over, like not only like have a conversation with her, but like make her laugh, and it's like, oh, she actually knows how to speak Czech.
Right. Well, but she also mentioned she has colleagues and friends who've lived there just as long as she has, and they haven't learned Czech because just like Berlin, Prague is not the place where it helps. It always helps.
But I think it's a little bit easier to get away with not learning German in Berlin than Prague, even though clearly
I would disagree.
Prague is. Oh, you think it's about the same?
I would disagree. I would think it's pretty close.
Okay.
I would even say in Prague you can probably get away even more with not speaking Czech, whereas in Berlin, I think depending on where you are in Berlin, I would think.
Interesting.
Maybe
well,
it's
especially
equal.
You make a good point. You made a good point before about how you do make a good point in the sense that how in the clubs they kind of are they're not a huge fan of the outward tourist at the clubs in Berlin.
Right.
Although remember we went to Usudu a couple times and your friend Alex was commenting. Oh shit! Sorry. Your friend Alex was commenting on how he was surprised at the amount of tourists.
Right.
And am I allowed to say this? There were some bold tourists in Usudu.
Oh, there definitely were. Yeah. I mean, here's the thing about Usudu. I think traditionally it was not very well known as a tourist place.
Right.
And it's blown up on the internet.
And we went twice, and both times there were
a lot of
a lot of tourists. Not just Americans though, but tourists in general.
That's true. I heard some French.
That one guy that came up to us was, I don't know what he spoke English fine, but he clearly had a non-American accent.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, here's the thing with Prague. I think Prague and Berlin obviously have tons of tourists. I think the difference is that because Prague is smaller in size than Berlin, it's more densely packed with tourists. So I think you notice it a little bit more than you would in Berlin.
Right.
In Berlin, I think there's a lot of just international people who also live there. I mean, there are a lot of international people who live in Prague as well. There's a huge expat population. But yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting to see. But I would say it's kind of funny though, the reasons why people go to. I think people go to Berlin for completely different reasons than Prague. I think a lot of people go to Prague because they hear, especially like stag parties, like bachelor parties. A lot of them go to Prague because if you're coming from England or somewhere else, relatively it tends to be somewhat cheap. Whereas you go to Berlin to just like rage.
It's a culture that I'm sure the British people are very familiar with, just excessive beer drinking.
Right. True, very true. And in Berlin, it's more, I think, about like the party lifestyle, like kind of being alternative and edgy. And you know what I mean? Like,
yes.
Berlin just has a whole different, and I had asked you about this as well.
Berlin is more counterculture.
Yeah, and I think there's completely different vibes in both cities. Prague gives me more of a kind of quainter, older type of city vibe for the most part. Obviously, every district in Prague is different, but
for sure.
But Berlin,
it's more of a classical European sort of tourist destination city. That's not an insult, by the way, because it's beautiful.
No, not at all. And
Berlin,
by the
way, check out our Instagram to see how beautiful it is.
That's right. But Berlin is kind of in your face with the graffiti and the interesting people and the clubs and the party lifestyle and
the advertisements and just the
Yeah. Exactly. It's pretty wild.
But I think because of that, it was a perfect combination to go to Berlin and Prague because it gives you the best of both worlds for when you're trying to squeeze as much as you can into one vacation.
Oh, definitely. And we were definitely squeezing the juice. That's for sure.
One of my the juice was flowing. One of my favorite things from Prague was probably Trap Tower. It's not Trap Tower Park. was
Letna
probably
Park.
Letna Park. That was nice, and it was nice to walk up there. And it was a great sort of early quote unquote for us morning thing to do to start the day. That was really nice. What was another sort of highlight of Prague? I'm trying to think.
Usudu, probably.
Of course.
Usudu is such a great place.
Yes, 100%. That, and then of course meeting Joanna. Those were probably the three highlights for me.
What about Czech food? What are your thoughts?
It's different than German food, but similar in
The heartiness?
Yes, and similar in because they're close. Schnitzel is Czechs aren't a stranger to schnitzel. So in that sense, in most restaurant, that was probably going to be there. So, but I was a fan of, for example, the meal I had in Chomutov was a pork meal, and very hearty, surprisingly hearty. It was they had potatoes and tomatoes, or tomatoes and potatoes. They had this delicious green sauce and a lot of pieces of meat. And then when I went to the first restaurant we went to in Prague, I got pork ribs, and they gave me a lot of them. And I was shocked. I was shocked. I was starving both times, and I could barely, and I didn't even finish it all. I was shocked.
And thoughts on the Czech soups?
I loved
Soups
it.
are a big deal
I loved
here.
it. Did you notice, by the way, I made a point to get a soup at just about every meal that offered it?
I did. I wasn't going to say anything, but I did. You were living that Czech lifestyle.
In the U.S., I'm not really a soup person. Like, I don't hate it, but I'm not one to just, like, I'd rather find a salad that I like than a soup. But I remember you always talking about how they always get soups.
Right.
And they would always even ask beforehand. Like, it was almost like it was a given. Like, into your soup, almost.
Like in your soup? Yeah. Sir?
And
soup?
so I thought, one, Chad talks about how everyone gets soup here. So when in Czech Republic, and two, it's all relatively speaking to the prices for me, it's all cheap anyway. It's not like I'm like, ooh, can I?
I don't know if I can afford that soup.
Yeah, the $1.50 soup. Can I? Can I stretch this? And I tried soups that I probably wouldn't even choose, like mushroom cheese soups. That I was like, this is kind of like, I'm not a big mushroom person, but I'm proud of myself for trying it, and I enjoyed it. What I enjoyed even more than, say, like mushrooms, I'm not a huge mushroom person like that. It needs to be kind of mixed into stuff. Was the broths were all very good. I didn't have a bad broth in the bunch.
Definitely.
A lot of bees, bro.
That is true. Some good alliteration right there. My question for you as well regarding the soups. Which one was your favorite? I have to say that the garlic soup that we had at Sklep in Prague was my favorite. It was delicious.
I remember that was the first restaurant where I had the ribs, and you had the schnitzel.
The schnitzel.
And Don had the don't tell me. Svichkova.
Yep. Very good.
I always think Krushevica.
That's the beer. Krushevica is the beer I like. Yeah. Svichkova.
Yes. What were you saying? I was trying to.
Thoughts on the garlic soup?
Oh, yes, the garlic soup. That was very delicious. I like the croutons. But I think my favorite was probably the one at Republika, which threw you off guard because they gave you the...
We should have taken a picture of it in hindsight.
We don't think like that.
That's true.
But I think the one at Sklep was a close second. And I think the one at Sklep seems like that you're more kind of, not traditional, because the one at Republika was traditional as well. They just fancied up the delivery.
Right. Well, and let me describe that to our listeners out there. So, Republika is my favorite restaurant here in Chomutov, and I think it's one of the best restaurants. I'm even going to be bold and just say it. Maybe one of the best in the region I live in, which is Ústecký kraj.
I feel now really lucky that we got to go there.
Well, yeah, it was a point of mine to take you there. I knew if we were going to be in Chomutov, we were going there. And
well, so now I'm glad I made a point to get soup there.
Right,
I'd be a fool not
and
to.
so we got the beef soup, and it came in a bowl. But what I mean by it came in a bowl, there was beef and carrots and some other vegetables,
and like those kind of pancakey noodles.
Yep, the little.
Which I love those. I love those.
Oh, those are delicious. Absolutely. And so they bring it, and I'm like, "Where's the broth?
Dry ingredients.
This is dry soup." And at first, I'm like, "Are they trying to be like cutting edge by not having
a little too
broth?
fancy here.
Like here's your fancy new dry soup, sir. Compliments of the chef, you know." And then he was like, "Okay, 1 second." And he goes and gets the broth in a separate little kettle or something.
Yeah.
And then pours it onto the soup, which I had, you were right. The delivery was completely different.
I've seen that once or twice before. So like at first I was like, oh, that's weird. But then I remember I've seen that a couple times before.
See, I'm just not as fancy as you, Jared. That's why I haven't seen it before.
I mean, no, you're not as fancy as my parents, not me. But yeah, no, that place was delicious. And it's... And once again, the most I would easily take your word for that being one of the fanciest restaurants in the city. Don got pate, and they delivered it. It was covered by a little, like almost a glass, like a glass cake cover,
almost like the cover in Beauty and the Beast with the rose.
Yes. And when they did it, there was like a steam under there that they almost whisked away with this with the performance, and then. The schnitzel couldn't be really presented like this because a good schnitzel takes up the majority of a plate, which yours did.
Right.
But I got a more traditional Czech meal, I would assume.
I think with Republika, it's like a modern twist on traditional Czech meals.
And it was served with one of those classic metal plate covers. Yep. And at least for other tables, not for me because both you and Don got the schnitzel, but for other tables I noticed they did the synchronized removal of the trays. That's
the thing. That's why going to Republika is kind of cool because it is about the ambiance and the atmosphere.
They're professionals.
They are. They definitely
don't mess around.
And Jared and I got a digestif for our non-European listeners out there. A digestif is like it's some type of liquor that you drink after your meal. What?
Relatively strong liquor.
Right.
That you and most cultures in Europe seem to have something like that.
Right. And I believe even Jägermeister can be a digestif.
Probably not the way we've seen it consumed, but
right, that's true. But yeah, and so we had Hruškovice, which is a pear brandy, and it's one of my favorites here in the Czech Republic, and it just goes down so smooth.
Mm-hmm. I was shocked because I'm usually not like a sipper of hard liquors. I can take a shot every now and again, not to brag, but it was surprisingly, it was one of those, it was a liquor that was, you were very aware that it was probably at least 35-40%. Mm-hmm. But it wasn't. If you've had liquor at least a couple of times, it wouldn't make you wince.
No, and it doesn't really burn. It's just smooth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was,
really,
and it really
smooth.
is a digestif because I was stuffed after that, and then after the digestif, it's like I was just nice. I just felt properly filled.
You know what's weird though?
I think it works.
I have a theory about the digestif. Why? I think I'm no medical doctor. I know it's hard to believe, but I'm no medical doctor. But I think another reason why it makes you feel like the right amount of full is just you sit there longer and you sip on it. And so I don't know if it's the actual liquor or just the time.
It allows you more time to relax.
Exactly.
Usually, but I feel like usually after sometimes if I don't do if I don't do like I'm not really a digestif person, but if I'm with my parents sometimes I'll do like a dessert wine I've done or I've done a coffee, and I feel like those don't leave me with the same feeling as the digestif does.
Right, I would agree.
That leaves me with a more pleasantly satisfied feeling than I think a coffee fills me up a little bit, or like the sweetness of the wine fills me up a little bit more.
Can you do me a favor? Now I'm just really curious. Can you Google? What does a digestif do? Because I'm curious if there's actually any scientific background to it. Because I feel like, it's been a part of European culture for a long, long time. But to me, it seems like it's not just some silly old tradition. Like I think there's some reason behind it. Or maybe they just like to drink. Can't blame them.
Okay, let's see. It all started this is from. Sorry. Jesus Christ. Now I just took my phone off airplane mode and I'm getting blown up like a Jay-Z over here. It's all you and Don. I just realized there's a group conversation going on between.
It's all just Don. It's not me.
Of course it is. It all started at the I don't know if I want to use this article that's trying to be cute with it. Okay, no, here it is. Let me find a different one. Let me just go to Wikipedia, see what they say. Let's keep it simple.
Wikipedia is exactly. Or Urban Dictionary, our other our good place for sources.
A digestif is an alcoholic beverage served after a meal to aid digestion. When served after a coffee course, so technically if you're doing the real big dog dinner,
You gotta have coffee and then the digestif.
So what you'd probably do is you'd have here's how it'd go. I'm gonna break this down for you unclassy folk out there. You'd have the and I'll start at the end. I'm not gonna start from the beginning. After the main course, you'd have probably the cheese platter with the dessert wine or a brandy, if depending on what your thing is.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'd have the coffee, and then you'd have the digestif. I'm guessing.
Okay. Yeah, I have no idea.
Okay. Served after a coffee course, it may be called a pousse café.
After coffee, I'm assuming?
Digestifs are usually taken neat. Common known digestifs are brandy, cognac. Okay, well, that's wrong. Then you wouldn't have a brandy with cheese plate. Cognac, Armagnac, there's some other ones. Fortified wines, sweet sherry, vermouth, port. Liqueurs, bitter or sweet, and that's probably where the Hlušovica goes.
Could be, yeah.
And Becherovka goes.
No, I think those are brandies, or at least Hruškovic. I'm pretty sure is a pear
brandy. Or those
brandy.
distilled liquors. Excuse me, distilled liquors are probably what those are.
Yeah. I think
because that's ouzo, more like ouzo, tequila, akvavit. I don't know what that is.
Yeah, me either. I've never had that before.
In many countries, people drink alcoholic beverages at lunch and dinner. Studies have found that when food is eaten before drinking alcohol absorption is reduced and the rate at which alcohol is eliminated from the blood is increased. So that's kind of not what we're thinking about. That's just saying that it kind of helps you with getting drunk or hangovers. The mechanism for fast alcohol elimination appears to be unrelated to the type of food. The likely mechanism is food-induced increases in alcohol metabolism, enzymes, and liver blood flow. So there you go.
Huh. Okay.
I'm sure there's some science there.
Okay. Nice. Well, Jared, now I'm going to give you a little challenge here.
Okay.
I want you to sum up
quirky
Berlin.
I'm sorry.
And I want you to sum up Prague in 5 words or less. So we'll start with Berlin since we went there first. How would you sum up Berlin in 5 words or less?
Counterculture is 1 word.
Okay. There's 1. You have to say aesthetic.
Aesthetic, yeah. Friendly. Oh, no, excuse me. Friendly/inviting. I'm going to say that's 1.
Okay.
I felt like everyone was very open. Especially when maybe not in maybe not in the local schnitzel place, but when we were in social environments, everyone was very open to everyone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's 3.
Mm-hmm.
It's what's the word I'm looking for? Like never-ending opportunities. That's more than 1 word.
Endless opportunities. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's 2 words though.
So you got your 5 words.
That could be it. There you go.
Got your 5 words. All right.
There you go.
So you got counterculture, aesthetic, inviting and or like welcoming or friendly.
Friendly. Yeah.
And what were the last ones?
And endless
opportunities. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll give you my 5. My 5 are different, obviously, because it wasn't my first time there.
Right.
My first one would be 2 words: engaging conversations.
Mm-hmm.
Rain. Didn't stop us, but it was pretty rainy there. I would say culture.
That's very true. I mean, that's definitely a big part of our trip.
Right. And then I would say culture for my word number 4. And then for word number 5, I would say either tolerant and or open.
Yes.
I would say those are my 5.
And this is not a negative because I love this, but aggressively to a certain extent.
Mm-hmm. Well, see, that's the thing. I think in Berlin, you can really be yourself, whoever that may be. If you want to dye your hair bright purple and walk around with 5, 6 facial piercings or a face tattoo, people don't really care. It's like people won't really bat an eye.
Yes.
So yeah. Okay, good. Now 5 words about Prague. 5 words or less.
Beer.
Okay. Pivo.
Beer. Pivo is a. I didn't. It's almost. I didn't realize how much of a culture it was. It not uncommon for people to be drinking beer at lunch. not uncommon for people to drink excessive amounts of beer at night, just endlessly. So beer is a big one, which I enjoyed very much. It was more traditional.
Okay, so
both
beer, traditional, what else?
Both visually, and it almost seemed kind of culturally as well.
Okay.
So traditional, that's 2 right there. Beer and traditional. I would say I don't know how to explain this, but even more than in Berlin, I appreciated your tour guide, like you as tour guide. So can I say Chad?
Sure. I love it. Beer, traditional, Chad. What else?
Because in Berlin, I think you and I made more joint decisions. It just seemed like you were more of the lead because you were the one with the phone and the maps. Right. But I think we were pretty good at making equal decisions on that trip.
Yeah. And in Prague, I tended to give you guys options, and then we choose.
You had more direct options for Prague.
Right.
And I think in Berlin we made more 50-50-ish decisions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd agree. So 2 more words.
So you were a big part of it, and I really appreciated your social ability to find us these cool people and places.
Yeah. It was my pleasure.
I'd say even more than, not even more than, but Prague's a little bit tougher. I'll say this: I was a little shocked by the tourism.
Okay.
I wasn't shocked by the tourism in Berlin, but I was a little shocked by the level of tourism in Prague.
Okay. All right, we can leave it at 4. That's fine.
And one more is and your Chomutov was a standout because I said Prague and Berlin were 2 very different experiences, but forget all of that. Chomutov was the actual completely unique experience to the entire thing,
for sure.
And I thought that even though we didn't spend much time there, it was a nice break it was a perfect break from the trip. Mm-hmm. And we got, I think, one of the best meals of the trip there easily.
Oh, for sure.
And I think it was the most unique part of this trip. So that's
definitely.
I think
I'm
that's
glad
a
we
standout
took the time to go here. Mm-hmm.
Oh, for sure. I think that's a standout of Czech Republic.
Yeah, definitely. All right, Jared. So I want to give, just to wrap up our main segment today, I'd like to give our listeners out there my 2 cents as being, as you mentioned, the tour guide for you and for Don. And I definitely agree with you. Berlin, it was much more 50-50. I think at Prague, I would try to toss options out at you guys, but sometimes you got to make executive decisions.
Right.
And I have to say though, you and Don were both very easy tourists to guide around Prague. You guys weren't too picky. You were open for whatever. Yes. So that made my life easy.
And I was proud. I mentioned before, and I was proud of Don for that he was very open to anything. Right. Yeah. He took all options,
which I think is really important when you travel.
Not to say we didn't have our issues, though.
Yeah.
Don has a very aggressive, not aggressive, but he has a very confident personality.
Right. Well, the other thing is too, like, the more people you travel with, the more people you have to essentially please. Right. If it's you or me, I feel like you and I have fairly similar tastes and wants and things for the most part. Other than maybe you not wanting to go to a nightclub and I would go to a nightclub. Other than that, it's all pretty similar with you.
But it wasn't even that. There were like social things I had to adjust to. Like we always, we made the joke first of all that whenever we were speaking German and Don was around, that means we were obviously talking about him.
Don, right?
Yeah. The only time we were is when I would whisper you "Immer Arbeit." And it's because that's something I definitely noticed. And that's not even specific to him, so I'm not really shitting on Don here. But Americans Arbeit means always work. And Don loved to talk about work. It was a common topic for him to talk about, like money and stuff like that. Yep. And that, it didn't bother me, but sometimes it made me a little uncomfortable. I'm not going to lie.
Oh, it totally made me uncomfortable.
Because I think that's a cultural thing that maybe we also could have mentioned when we were recording the podcast. That's true. That's a topic that most Europeans rarely go to as a starting topic for conversation.
Definitely, they leave work at work. They also don't usually talk about finances. To
be fair to us, we never mentioned that to him, and it didn't really cross my mind until we were in the moment of it. I was like, I didn't even think about this, but it made me a little uncomfortable with all the work talk and money talk.
Right. Yeah. It's just a different culture. You're right. Yeah, but I think he did great.
Oh yeah.
It was fun to have him along as well. Yeah, and I have to say, being the tour guide, you have to, like I said, you just have to be willing to make executive decisions.
Right.
Also, though, always try to keep your options open. I mean, that was the reason why I was so excited to take you guys to Prague, because if something didn't work, I had a plan A, B, C, D, E.
That's
F,
what I was about to say. I actually want to retract what I said before about Berlin being 50-50 and say it was more 60-40,
60-40?
65-35. Because even though we were very good at making decisions together, you were still, and I mentioned this actually during the Berlin episode, but you were still very good at just throwing out options. Even if we were both sort of aware of the options, you're very good at having just options readily available on the top of your head. So even if you were like thinking of things that maybe I even already was aware of too, or we already talked about, you were just good that in the moment a bit thinking like, well, we're generally in this region, and I know that we could, maybe we could get this in. So I'd say even in Berlin, you were a little bit more useful than I was for sure. But but more so in Prague for sure.
Right. And I think the thing, if you want to be a good tour guide to your friends, just provide options. Sometimes you have to make the decisions yourself. But
you seem to struggle with that sometimes, but I think it was easy in a position where you knew we were both completely out of our element.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Definitely. And the other thing too that was fun for me was Jared mentioned this when we were talking. I love dropping random, tidbits or nuggets of knowledge on you when we were like walking around.
Yeah, I feel like I owe you money.
I mean, you do lots. No, not really.
In Berlin and Prague, we saw a bunch of those tours going around, and I just thought, suckers.
Right. You got me.
I get this for free.
Exactly. But it's funny though. I tried to share some of those tidbits with Don, and it seemed like he was not as interested in it as you were. And maybe it's because he was just trying to take in everything. Because when it's your first time in Europe, it's really, I mean, it's the same first time everywhere. It's very overwhelming. It's easy to, be caught looking up at all the buildings. And
right.
There's a lot to take in. Whereas, for you, it wasn't your first time in Europe. And I know you kind of like to nerd out about those things like I do.
Yeah, I do. Yeah. And I always trip out about, numbers, and it's like, this was built in 11 whatever. It's like, that blows my mind all the time.
Oh, it's crazy. Exactly.
So I love hearing those fun facts or like weird stories. Like I remember one that sticks out to me is the story, and it's funny now because I can't even fully remember it properly, but at Stefan's Dome, how it's missing, how one of the domes wasn't completed, or towers
you
wasn't completed.
You mean the towers, yeah. Yeah, and that was because the architect died.
Yeah, and they just never finished it.
Right. So now I'm curious, Jared. So here at the Untranslatable podcast, we do a lot with language and with culture. And language and culture are very heavily intertwined. So I'm curious. You've been back to the States for a bit. Hopefully you've decompressed a little. What are some Czech words and phrases you remember?
I was actually, a friend of mine picked me up from the airport, and we went to, by the way, I'm not an idiot, but it was so nice to be back in America. I went to a place called Dim Sum Garden, which is a famous dumpling place here in Philadelphia. And I ate a lot, and it was great. And later I came home and I had a terrible stomachache.
I believe it.
But while I was enjoying the dim sum, before the stomachache kicked in, I was trying to remember some of the Czech phrases. So dobrý den, obviously, is good day, or you can say ahoy, which is the more chill version of good day, the informal good day, or
good.
Ciao, but I prefer ahoy.
Ahoy is one of my favorite Czech words. I love it.
Prosím is prosím is please. Dobrý den is good day. Dobrý večer is good night.
Ooh, very good. I'm impressed. Okay.
Jídlo is food. I never remember the more common way to say Czech please, but I always remember učet prosím, which is Czech please.
That's perfect.
But you usually use the other version.
Well, I usually say zaplatime prosím, which is like, that's what a Czech person usually says.
I figured, but that one I always, for some reason, učet prosím stuck in my head quicker. Maybe it's a little easier to say.
It's shorter. It's quick.
Yeah.
It's 4 syllables.
I remember miesto is city.
Yeah. Miesto,
okay.
city. Yeah, good? You're good?
I don't remember train station, but I remember seeing train station, but I don't remember how to say it. 'Cause it was kind of long.
Hlavní nádraží is main train station.
Hlavní, that's a tough one. I remember
Nádraží.
Nástraví is cheers, obviously.
You can't forget that one.
Pivo, as I said, well, that's one of the main things I remember of Czech Republic is beer.
And what were your thoughts on the Czech beer? Did it live up to the hype?
Oh, for sure. There's something about the quality of that. You mentioned, I remember before you mentioned, that's something too, I mentioned to you a lot while we were there. I don't know if I mentioned this a lot on the podcast. Maybe I did. But that it's a drinking culture that I didn't realize it was such, even though I knew they were a beer culture, I didn't realize
They drink more beer than
the
any
level
other
of drinking
country in the
culture it
world.
was.
Yeah.
But something to the, I've reviewed all those IPAs, double chocolate coffee IPAs.
Right.
I could not drink most of those beers I reviewed, besides for maybe like maybe like a Tonewood Freshies. Remember that one? Something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But like for most of those IPAs, I can't drink them. Like the quality of those beers are perfect for the environment that they breed of just like drinking all night long. And so I remember you telling me that when you first went to Chicago, you drank 11 beers. When I first heard that, I was like, what? And then when I was in Prague or Chomutov, I was like, oh, I totally understand how that could so easily happen.
Oh, it goes down too easy, too smooth.
When we have great conversations like we had consistently with a whole slew of people.
Right. Yeah, definitely.
Time kind of slips away from you.
It does.
And so that pivo's a word. That's a long way to say pivo.
Right.
I'm trying to think. Dziękuję is thank you. Dobro noc is actually good night. I remember that one too.
Good night. Very good. Yeah. I'm pretty impressed. I didn't think you'd remember this many. That's great.
I remember more, but I can't think of them right now.
What does jeszcze jedno mean?
Jeszcze jedno. Oh,
jeszcze jedno.
Jak się masz is how are you?
Yeah.
Jeszcze jedno is another round.
Yeah,
yes.
Very good. Uh-huh.
Jeszcze jedno. I remember dri is three.
Tri.
And Rika.
Řeřicha is the watercress. Yeah, and that's a popular word that most Czechs will ask foreigners to say because it has the r, which is an R with the hot check on it. Looks like a little V on top of it. An R with the hot check. So it's R hot check, ER hot check, ICHA. So it also has the ch. So it's řeřicha.
Yeah. So yeah.
I kid you not, I walked to school saying řeřicha. Řeřicha.
I was impressed with your level of Czech. I mean, obviously you weren't conversational, but you could easily get through a restaurant encounter pretty confidently.
I like to flex my Czech a little bit with my American friends when I can.
You were ready for any restaurant question they threw at you for sure.
Yeah,
and nothing seemed to really catch you off guard.
No, you're right. It's weird. There's a couple environments. The restaurant, I feel pretty comfortable. Yeah. Also bars, because it's easy to order. It's very similar.
Right, same thing. It's actually probably simpler.
But the times where I will get
I also
caught
remember
off guard
Neymam, by the way, which is I don't have.
Very good.
All because you forgot your ticket or you lost your ticket.
Right. That's the thing, though, man. That's how we learn languages, when we associate these goofy stories to words. Do you remember what nevím means?
I don't know.
Hit that ham horn, dude. Very good. Very good. Nevím. Uh-huh. Yeah. But the sometimes I do, when I'm on public transportation, like I took the train today, and the woman was asking me something, and I realized, oh, she just wants to see my ID.
Right.
But I haven't, it's weird. On the train, I would say maybe 1 out of 6 times I'll get asked for my ID. Like, it's very rare.
Funny that you say that, because when we were on the first regional train going from Chomutov to, what's that city called? The capital of that region?
Ústí nad Labem.
Ústí nad Labem. A group of 4 older Czech people came up to us and didn't really say anything, but essentially gave us this look and said, like, you're in our seats. Yep. And we kind of just took it and left. But then as I was walking away, I thought, none of these seats are numbered.
Right. Yeah.
How are these their seats?
And what they told me was they had a reservation, which we might have got. Who knows?
Yeah, because it's like none of these seats have any numbers on them. How are these your seats?
Right. Exactly.
Well,
Exactly.
we didn't know enough Czech to really challenge them, so we just got. Luckily, I mean, we just walked down and found another spot. But
Right.
at first, we're like, I mean, okay, I don't know how these are
Exactly.
yours.
Exactly. Yeah. What can you actually do? Right. Well, good job, Jared. I have to say, I'm really proud with the Czech that you retained.
Thanks, buddy. You're a good teacher.
Thanks, man. I mean, it's easy when it's all around you.
But I told you, even before I came here and I was editing those previous episodes, I took a lot more time editing because I would rewind it back and forth to try to relearn some of those phrases.
Sure. And I have one special Czech word today. I don't think I've used this before. I might have. But the word is kamo. I think I told you what kamo means. I don't know if you remember.
Like a kamarad, like a short for a bro, friend.
Yeah, bro, friend, yeah. So there you go. And I thought this was appropriate since you are definitely one of my main kamos.
Yeah, and these trips definitely bring us closer together.
Oh, without a doubt.
Why I love/hate Don also.
Fair enough. I mean, that's the thing. If you travel long enough with anybody, you get on each other's nerves. Like, I think we picked the right amount of time.
Don claims that he loves to put me in uncomfortable situations. And I think that's only sometimes true. I think he also likes to use that to justify some things that he wants to do.
Yeah.
Like I think he wants to do stuff that he doesn't want to admit, and he knows that because most things put me in uncomfortable situations, so he can use that as a cover for doing stuff that he actually wants to try.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But sometimes I think it also is just because he likes to make me uncomfortable for sure.
Right.
Like Carlo V. Lasny, I could believe him for saying that's just because he wanted to make me uncomfortable.
Right. That was fun though.
It was a fun experience. And I think I probably liked it more because there were less people there, to be honest with you.
Right. Yeah.
And it was more just us fucking around.
Definitely. Well, Jared, I think it's time we switch gears and talk about our song of the pod. I have to tell you, on the way to Berlin, the day before you got there, I had been listening to some like acoustic music in German. It started off with this artist named Clouseau, who I really like. And we'll have to, if we haven't had him on as a song of the pod, we'll have to. But then, sometimes with Spotify, if you randomly pick an artist, then they'll keep playing similar stuff, right? Mm-hmm. And so this song by Hans Zollner, it's called Schwabenlied, which is Swabian or Schwäbisch for Swabian song, popped up. And it was just voice and acoustic guitar. And the first thing that caught my mind, or caught my ear, I guess, and also my attention and my curiosity, was the...
that's the meme of the big trip, by the way, because we kept mentioning that.
Right, and that's a line from Django Unchained.
Yeah.
Or is it, you have my interest, but now you have my curiosity?
Dude, and now I don't even remember the exact phrasing, and we looked it up on purpose.
It's something like that. But anyways, what I really like about this song is it's in... he sings the whole thing in Swabian dialect.
Yes.
And it's acoustic guitar and voice. And some of the stuff I understand, some of it I don't. But it's just really cool to hear acoustic guitar and voice in a dialect. I think it's really fascinating. I
actually heard some fun German dialects in Heathrow in the security lines as I was looking at my clock every 2 minutes. And they were like joking around, like, I
Are you sure that wasn't Dutch?
No, it was definitely German. That was just a terrible rendition of their
okay, fair enough.
of their accent. Actually, it was funny at Dim Sum Garden. There were people, there were Germans waiting in line right next to us while we were eating, and I was like, "Hey, would you look at that?"
Nice.
And then there was a Spanish group maybe Mexican, a Spanish-speaking group that came in.
Okay.
And I was like, "Would you look at that?"
Nice.
And by the way, it's at first you had my curiosity, but now you had my attention. But now you have my attention. Excuse me.
There we go. So yeah, but what are your thoughts on it, Jared? I mean,
as you said, you can I can get sort of a little less than the gist of it, if that makes any sense. Mm-hmm. Like I pick up words here and there, and I get like, oh, he's going to this place. Oh, then something sort of wonky happens to him. That seems to be the most of the gist I'm getting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, same here, more or less.
You told me you have the actual lyrics, so I'm curious to know what he's actually saying.
So I'll read some of it, and granted, I don't speak Swabian, so this is kind of a shot in the dark. But I've studied German dialects, and I think I can figure I'll just do the first like line or line and a half.
Mama hoo hoo.
We don't need to bore our listeners with my horrible rendition of Swabian.
Follow us Untranslatable 1 and listen to the song.
That's right. But so it's Ibn letzte, and my Swabian, I'm not even going to try the accent. I'm just going to read it how I see it.
Go for it.
Ibn letzte Woche einmal in Schwabing drünt gewesen.
Last week I went to Schwabian.
Swabia.
Yeah, Swabia, whatever you call it.
Ich wollte Disco Dirndl im Glitzerwandel. So, Wangel sing. So, I wanted to. Oh, this is where it gets tricky.
Yeah, what does that really mean?
I'm
I
trying
get
to
the
think.
words, but I don't really understand what that means.
I think it's kind of like I wanted to.
What's a disco dirndl?
Well, I'm wondering if he wanted to. He wanted to see. I think he wanted to see like
go to the disco and see women in pretty dresses.
I think so, yeah. But then he says, aber leider war es zu kalt und das Wetter war verrenkt. So unfortunately, it was too cold and like the weather was horrible.
He needs to come to the U.S. and see the people the way some girls go out when it's pretty cold.
I know, it's crazy.
It's actually St. Patrick's Day here, and I've seen some ridiculous levels of lack of concern about the weather.
Right, and then he says, "Da sonst nicht umeinander gerannt." So, and they weren't like running around or running around each other, something like that. But anyways, it's interesting though to hear the Swabian dialect with the song. It seems like it's kind of a funny song. Tells a story about like trying to go out.
There were a couple of verses I liked a lot of music teachers and art teachers and English teachers hate the word flow. Mm-hmm. There was a part that I liked a lot that involved him speeding up his timing, in the words within a line that surprisingly worked for me. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, you're right.
Where totally he fit a whole, he'd almost double time for just a short part of a line.
Right. Yeah, and it works. And I think the only reason why it works is it's acoustic guitar and voice. If it was with a band, it'd be trickier to do that.
Right, it'd be a little too muddled, probably.
Exactly.
So more stuff going on.
Exactly. So check it out. Schwabing-Lied from Hans Zollner. It's a really interesting listen. If you're a German nerd like Jared and I are, I'm sure you'll enjoy it. So check that out. Untranslatable 1 on Twitter or on our YouTube channel.
Speaking of German nerd, are we going to do a German podcast after this?
We'll talk about it.
Okay.
We'll talk about it. So let's move on to the jokes of the pod. So I got 2 of them for you today. And these are some clean jokes. So here we go. Why did the painter become hospitalized?
Why is that?
It was due to too many strokes.
Okay.
And why did the robber take a bath?
Because the nice house. That's not a joke.
Because he wanted to make a clean getaway.
Oh.
Pretty
the
clever,
irony is
right?
You're leaving all your DNA behind if you do that.
That's true. That is true. All right. Well, now it's time to end our episode with a quote for our buddies abroad travel recap. And I think the quote is, like I mentioned in the main segment, when you're with friends, don't be afraid to travel without a plan. Sometimes no plans are the best plans.
Maps off.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Besides for when you're trying to get to somewhere specifically.
Exactly. Then maybe you want the maps on, but otherwise, exactly. Don't be afraid to explore.
Yeah, besides when you're trying to make a good impression meeting new people.
Right. Exactly. But, I have to say, man, it was a great trip. I think we all learned a lot. We had a lot of fun.
Yeah, I was proud of us.
Definitely. And I think there's a lot of things our listeners can take from this episode.
Another thing, can I just give another good tip about travel? I'm sorry to cut off your...
You're good. You're good.
Another good tip that I like about traveling, especially outside of the U.S., is money usage is a lot more controlled. Like I didn't come home like scared to look at my bank account or concerned about how much money I had because I took out controlled amounts at a time. I knew exactly where it was. I probably used my credit card, twice for normal, food purchases with nothing crazy.
Right.
And so it was nice to come home and not have scared to open my bank account.
Oh, definitely. Absolutely.
And that's the good thing about using cash, I think.
Right. Definitely. And I have to say too, I spent more than I intended, I think, but it still didn't break the bank. That's for sure.
Same with me. I mean, I definitely spent more than I was expecting.
Right.
Not expecting.
But hey, we can't take it with us. We're here for good time, not for long time.
Exactly.
So
I'm not going to lose my apartment.
Exactly. Exactly. So we hope this episode gives you some insight on, first of all, some things about Berlin and Prague. Also what it's like to travel with your friends and be the tour guide for your friends. So let us know at untranslatablepodcast@gmail.com some of your travel stories with your friends and what you have done with your buddies abroad. We're very curious to hear about it. Also, check out our Instagram for all sorts of exciting pictures of our shenanigans and travel escapades, Untranslatable Podcast. And of course, to check out our Song of the Pod, Schwebinglied von Hans Zollner. Check out our Twitter page, Untranslatable One. And we really appreciate all of your support from all of our listeners around the world. Thank you all for being so amazing. And we look forward to talking to you again, giving you some other language tidbits and some travel tips or some things about culture. So keep your eyes out for some new content coming your way soon. And as we say here on the Untranslatable Podcast, Děkujeme.